Stony Island Audio.
And now, it's time for the Dad Bod Rap Pod with your hosts, Damone Carter, David Ma, and Nate LeBlanc.
Three underground rap nerds walked into a bar. An argument ensued about who the GOATs are. The seed was a thought that would turn into a pod. Now fans worldwide say, not a bad job, the ad hoc gab squad who chronicles the vanguard of hip-hop at large. Rap taste slacked off, don't need to be mad, dog. Look no further, it's the Dad Bod Rap Pod.
Podcasting live from San Jose, California. It is the Dad Bod Rap Pod. My name is Damone Carter, aka Dib1. I am joined by Mr. Nathaniel LeBlanc. What's going on today? Giving me big work shirt vibes.
Yes, I had to go to work today. I'm cleverly disguised as a business casual office employee.
Absolutely.
I was gonna do a bit where I was like, and they call me Dem too. That's all the bit there is now.
All right, we'll work on it.
Did you watch the? I know you're gonna say no, but humor me.
Okay.
Did you watch the Chippendales Rescue Rangers reboot, or did your kids make you watch that at any point? It's fairly new. It has John Mulaney and Andy Samberg as the as the voices, and it's very meta.
Okay, it's outside of my kid watching window. Right?
All
My
I'll
kids are
say
older.
is it's pretty funny for what it is. It's
Okay.
kind of sad in a weird way.
Mhm.
I liked it, obviously. And they have a part where they rap, and they do this whole thing of like the worst thing you can do as a cartoon reboot to try to be relevant is to rap. So they do these like purposefully bad raps in like a kind of Sandbergian style that actually worked pretty well for the moment in the film. But
is that like when I think of Andy Samberg now, I'm like, is that his like superpower that he plays
getting away
around
with comedy rapping and still people still liking him? Perhaps.
Yeah. Because I as much as I hate that shit, I do make an exception for him. I'm not gonna lie.
He's okay.
Yeah.
I'd love to talk to him someday about where the line is, because he comes from our exact place. He's our exact age, but like he got to make a song with E40, you know?
Yeah, and I didn't, and I'm still mad.
Right.
But if he has like, you know, Black Alicious in the collection, then all is forgiven. I need to
has Black Alicious in there.
You think so?
Oh yeah, dude. He's from fucking Berkeley, and he's literally our age. Like he knows all that stuff. Oh, I was gonna say, have you ever seen Palm Springs?
Movie?
Yeah, movie on Hulu. It's a time loop movie.
What's a time loop movie?
A Groundhog Day.
Oh, okay. Where
there's like a whole genre of Groundhog Day style. A lot of horror movies use that trope now. Yeah. Like I don't know if you've ever seen Happy Death Day or any of those other movies. Like it's like you get to keep trying until you get it right.
Okay.
Edge of Tomorrow is a really good like sci-fi action movie that uses that trope. Have you seen that?
Mm-mm.
Oh, that's so good, dude. Tom Cruise and Emily Blunt. That's like one of the best movies of the last like little while.
Is that right?
Such a good movie. Yeah, totally. Okay. Anyway, no rapping in Palm Springs, and a very winning Andy Samberg performance where he brings a little bit more pathos and a little bit more emotional core to this dude who's stuck in this thing. It was actually funny. I was DMing with someone I won't name because they keep a very low public profile about coming to our thing in LA, and they were like, "Oh, I can't. I'm going to a wedding in Palm Springs that Saturday." And I was like, "Oh, don't get stuck in a time loop." And then I got self-conscious and I was like, "Oh, they might not have seen that movie. What a fucking weird thing to say." So I wrote this like 20 paragraph essay about like, "I apologize if you haven't seen that movie. What I meant to say, you know what up."
That's awesome. That's awesome.
A little view into my life.
Yes. But I'll rock with your movie references, even if I don't get them. Because that's what we do for each other as podcasters.
Somebody out there will get it.
Absolutely. Amongst our listeners, which come from all corners of the earth, of the English-speaking earth, mostly. But shout out to everybody.
I suppose.
Oh, I'm sorry. What'd you say?
To be expected, I suppose that. Mostly the English-speaking world is rocking with us.
Yeah, but also, shout out to our listeners in the Netherlands. Scotland, which is barely English. Just I did a little thing on our Patreon, which you guys should all subscribe to if you're listening to my voice, asking folks where they were from, and I was genuinely somehow surprised at a lot of responses. We got a lot of Canadian fans. We have a lot of folks in the UK. that are rocking with us, and just much appreciated. And if this shit ever gets too American, I think it's when we do the basketball. I think when we really get on our basketball shit, I worry about the other countries.
It's not their favorite sport.
Maybe we could do some soccer. Do either you or Dave fuck with soccer like that at all?
Nah.
Or football? No. Okay.
Lucia watches the World Cup, and I've gone from being like, oh fuck, I have to get a hotel room for 2 weeks, to, oh, this is kind of cool.
The World Cup, because of the consolidation of talent, is the only time that I tap in with soccer. If soccer wants to hold my attention, they got to do some NBA shit. Like, I wouldn't watch 22 basketball leagues spread across 7 countries, like, no matter how good they are. But in any event, shout out to everybody that continues to rock with us across the globe. We're chugging along here. It is fucking June, Nate. Year's half over, bro.
I know, that's crazy. It goes so fast. You will understand this. I don't know if everyone listening will understand this. When you do a hobby that numbers the weeks, it makes your life weird. People are like, we'll be in a work meeting and they'll be like, oh, that's May 17th. How many weeks away is that? And I'm like, that's 4 weeks. I got Defcee coming up. I got, it's like, I've already planned out the next 4 weeks of my life. That's 4 Thursdays from now. I can tell you with some certainty.
The markers
that's episode 226. You know what I mean? It's
like y'all don't measure in DBRP episodes?
Yeah, no, it's funny. It's like really changes my life. I think of the week in such discrete terms. It's like Monday we do this, Tuesday we do that, Wednesday this kind of post, Thursday all this stuff, and it's like then the week's over basically.
And it's an interesting marker of time because we're also keeping it with music, right? In the sense of, in order to keep this flagship running, we have to understand what's going on with new releases. And so what is the name of that account that posts all the new releases? What is that? It's like Crown Them Entertainment on Twitter. Definitely check them out. They do a really comprehensive kind of weekly post about all the things that came out. And so,
and I want to give a shout out to Dylan Green's New Music Weekly email, which is a little bit more curated to our sensibilities. Okay. And has links.
Oh, okay.
Because some, like, a lot of things are like Bandcamp only.
Yeah.
It's like if I see it in a list and then I go on Spotify and it's not there, that's kind of the end of the search. But if the link is just there for me with the cover art and I know what it's referencing, it's easy because Dylan is one of our more prolific hip hop writers. He writes for Pitchfork and many other. Cinema Sci is like his handle.
Oh, okay.
He has a good podcast called Real Notes and stuff, and I think he just does this more as like a service to the bros than any other reason. But it's there's no context, which I think is interesting. I think as a writer, I don't know if I'd be able to not like
contextualize it and
the
be
hot
like,
one. You know what I mean? Like, you should really check this one out this week. Like, even when I just send people, like, I get in these back and forths with people, and it's like I'll write a little mini essay about everything. It's just
exactly.
Like, but that's
context.
Yeah, context matters. Context really matters. I can't just look at a cover these days, especially when so many covers are seemingly ironic or like afterthoughts or like I'm just like, I want to know, is this an album they tried really hard on, or is this just a release as content? And it's really hard to sort that out.
That's an interesting line. I do find with now that I'm just freebasing new rap all the time, I think about 74% of the shit that I come across is content.
Yes.
In that sense of like, right. Let's make songs, let's put out songs, let's put them in a package. What about doesn't really matter that much. It's like, let's just kind of get it out. But then there are, genuinely cool, interesting things that have happened in 2022, and to engage with music this way and listen to it this way. I love because it allows me to compare to previous years.
Right.
And to be like, how does this year stack up, kind of in the sports kind of way, but like, how does this year's album stack up next to last year's? I only really go back to 2020, but 2022
is funny because we started doing this in 2018.
The first couple years was all as Jesus Samara would say, Acapulco. All off the dome. That
whatever
was
happened to come into your purview.
yeah. But yeah, it's been an interesting year. There have been some cool records that have come out. We are going to do our annual mid-year, but it hasn't been a mid-year. Sorry.
Our good year halfway check-in.
Yes, our halfway check-in of 2022. And I think there's two kind of headlines here for this year in terms of rap releases, or maybe three, but we'll start with two. Two albums that have really kind of are the front runners right now for album of the year and have definitely held my attention and a lot of other folks. Those would be Death Fame by Quelle Chris and Aethiops by Billy Woods. We've had the divine pleasure of speaking to both of those cats about the work. Nate, let's start with Death Fame. Why is this album kind of neck and neck with Aethiops right now in terms of album of the year consideration?
Yeah, great record, excellently made, dropped at a very fortuitous time. The thing that's interesting to me is that it's about something.
Yeah.
From the title to the art to the songs to the surrounding interviews, including ours, which I still think is a very strong interview and was really fun and almost didn't happen. So we got very lucky to have that conversation, and even then still had so much more to talk about with the artist. It's about giving people it's about two things. It's about why aren't the best rappers the most successful rappers, and this extremely good rapper reckoning with that in real time, and also seemingly kind of getting more prominently known for tackling the subject matter, or maybe it's just a buildup of all this whole thing with the whole scene. It's tough to say why. And then it's about, I'm going to continue to use the term legacy, which is something that we discussed with Chris. I don't think it's exactly what it's about, but it's about giving people their flowers while they can smell them. It's about not wanting to wait until you're dead to be lauded. And Quelle Chris deserves to be lauded, and he's well aware of that. And he made a record that demonstrates why, and it's a really good record. And it's sonically very different from a lot of the other things that are out, from a lot of the other things we're going to talk about. It feels very homemade. It feels very personal. It takes some detours into some whimsical moments in a time where that's not a super popular thing. Like, that's not something you're going to say about Aethiops.
Nope.
Right? That's a heavy sociological, deep record, and they're both deep records in their own way. And Quelle Chris has more of a light touch, more of a sense of humor. And Death Fame to me is probably the one I keep returning to in terms of what do I want to listen to while I'm doing the dishes? What do I want to listen to on this car ride? What do I want to listen to a few songs of? Let me listen to just the back half that has the guests. Let me listen to just the beginning while he's stating the thesis, kind of I'm attacking it from different angles, and so far to me it's the most enjoyable.
There you go.
It's also very interesting to hear someone not only diagnose the problem, which there's a lot of complaining ass rap, we're all backpack,
especially in our world.
Especially in our world, this is doing something about it, which is fascinating. It's let me make a record so good I can't be ignored. And to me, it's working, and I see it working in other ways. So that was a long answer, but that's what I think is going on with Death Fame.
Absolutely, definitely concur. And it's it was somewhat sad to see the Atlanta rapper Trouble recently passed away, and kind of on Twitter watching Quelle Chris reflect on it in real time, which brings back both of those questions. Why aren't good rappers more rewarded for their works, and also why do we have to wait until somebody dies to give them their flowers? So no, I'm on board. I think enjoyable is the right word, the most enjoyable record to come out. Quelle Chris does a thing on this record that I like, and I feel like I'm always searching for, which is a mix of the light and the dark. It's as it's been said many times, it's easier to kind of paint with dark colors and do that whole thing, and I'm here for it. But I feel like Death Fame mixes light and dark in a way that's really intriguing, and there's a lot of different looks and feels on the record, which is always going to get high marks from me in terms of when I'm thinking about what was the best album, like who showed the most looks, who had the most versatility, who kind of made it all come together.
That's funny because we also do a thing where every year that Woods puts out an album, it's the album of the year.
Exactly. So I'm like I'm caught in a conundrum of the pundit, and it makes me think about when I get mad at like NBA writers, right? When they're like, we have to pick a new narrative to crown an MVP. I'm like, oh, you should just give it to the best person. But then you would end up giving it
what? Yeah.
Well, you could end up giving it to the same person over and over and have an airtight rationale for doing so, right? So it's this whole thing of like these
they
are
did with
things.
Michael Jordan, but they didn't do with Kobe. Like that changed after a certain time, right? Like, shouldn't Shaq have had more MVPs? Like,
absolutely,
Tim Duncan have had more MVPs? Like,
absolutely. And Steve Nash had 2 during Shaq and Kobe's like prime era. So it's one of those things where I think we, as I'm not going to include myself as a sports writer, but just as a cultural commentator, there is this bias that I'm trying to solve against for like, is every Billy Woods record, is every Arm & Hammer record the album of the year by default? Have I drinking a Kool-Aid that doesn't allow me to kind of like look at other things? I'm not sure. But with that being said, Ethiop's kind of the album of the year. It's such an amazing fucking record from a person who we've heard a lot of material from. And I think that for me says a lot in the sense of, with the rapper, usually when they do a lot of stuff, you get tired of it. You know what's coming. You begin to anticipate. It doesn't do the same thing it used to do for you. But somehow with Billy Woods, it just keeps getting better, more interesting. Let me ask you this, and I could be making this up because, again, I'm just way too close to it now. Does Ethiops feel a little bit more accessible than a Hiding Places or Terror Management?
I think Terror Management is the most accessible Woods record.
Okay.
Because of the amount of singing. It's like, because that's where Fielded was kind of added to the mix with Backwoods stuff and with Woods stuff, and because of the mix of producers on it.
Okay.
To me, if you want to talk about accessible, and we actually did talk to Woods about this when we had him on, to talk about that record and to talk about Hiding Places. And he didn't necessarily agree because it's also a pretty heavy record about climate change and there's a lot of stuff going on. But so I don't find it to be particularly accessible, Ethiops. But I will say, if you like rap, you would have to like that song where it's LP Breeze and Woods.
Yes.
And so that's accessible to like, kind of like.
Well, you know what? Underground accessible. Yes, exactly.
I know we're talking about degrees of accessibility. All of it is scare the B words, but it's accessible is not the term I would use. Like, it starts crazy. Like, it starts like a freaking action movie. Like, you're like behind the sniper's crosshairs, like looking into the neighbor's yard. You don't know where you are. The soundscape is insane. You guys have heard me gush about the beat for Wharves. Like, what is that? Yeah. What are those sounds? Do they even make sense? It's so cool. It's so different. Like, Prez is like working at a very high level, and we have to talk about his acknowledgments. About this record, or his contributions, I should say, and acknowledge his contributions. That's what makes it different. That's what makes it interesting, is Woods keeps coming back with a different palette and painting similar pictures, right? And I'm just, as a person who enjoys the spoken language, I'm just never going to get tired of Woods writing, I don't think. Like, it would be tough for him to have a misstep for me because it's so writerly and he's such a good writer. It's just like, I want to hear these stories. I want to see how he phrases things. I want to see what's on his mind. Like, that to me is what's interesting about this. And getting a chance to talk to him a little bit right before it came out and hearing about what is and isn't fictional. He didn't go through and diagram for us what everything related to, but we got a sense of how much of it was pulled from his life. He's led a very interesting life. This sounds weird to say because it's kind of not true in a way, but you'll see what I mean. It's like, he's lived a different life than most rappers, and I would say a more interesting life just by nature of having been based in so many different places, pulling from a lot of different places, Jamaica, Zimbabwe, DC,
Right.
Brooklyn. Like there's a lot. Like Backwoods is weirdly based in Dallas. I've never understood that. I don't even get how that works. I just there's a lot we don't know. Every time he talks to us about Vordel and how important Vordel was. Did Vordel seem like someone who didn't have stuff to say? You know what I mean?
Yeah, seriously.
Anyway, is it accessible? I don't know. Is it great? Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, it's a great record, and it kind of like I don't want to say, I hate words like cements, but like Billy Woods is continuing to get better. We talked about plateauing. I think we're talking about the Deltron record, your heretical statement that Del plateaued there. And and I get the sense with Billy Woods that it's just going to continue. I feel like the songs on Aethiopes, you talked about it being like short stories. I think his level of detail and humor is actually getting better. And those are like minute degrees because like all the shit, there's been humor before, there's been novelistic detail before, but I think it's coming together in a particular way. And I don't know if there's a better record than Aethiopes. It's going to be interesting.
Like what one would be in a museum?
Yeah.
Which one is in my headphones often?
Definitely.
Be different by the end of the year.
Yeah.
Let me pitch this at you and see what you think about it. And then we do have other records to talk about. I can hold two thoughts at once. One is that Hiding Places is his best record and one of my favorite rap records and one of the best rap records I've ever heard. Two is that he's getting better. And we're 3 years past Hiding Places, so wouldn't that make each one the next one the best one? Kinda, right?
Kind of, because I do believe Billy Woods is amongst a small handful of folks who represent the vanguard. And so because he's already kind of standing out, any progress he makes is like progress for the genre. You know what I mean? Like I disagree with that. Yeah. The way that we perceive rap and what it can and can't do, the types of stories you could tell. I've listened to rap for so many years now. He's telling stories in a way that has not been done before. I mean, you could kind of, even if you just want to set aside some of his more obtuse stuff, harder to penetrate stuff, the literal stories that are being told, when you think about No Hard Feelings, as somebody who's experienced things such as that, I went, that was really deep. Or even Squeegee Man off of Haram. Yeah. These stories that like curdle the blood in a way that not a lot of rap stories do. I mean, maybe one of the under-discussed things is like, I know we talk about the art of storytelling. There's only a handful of people that really do that well in rap.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Yeah, and consistently do it well, and not like you have one song where it's like, wow, what a great story, but it's like if you make that your thing, it's a little different. And we would be remiss if we didn't mention that you guys are going to hear this on Thursday. Tomorrow, on Friday, Elucid is going to drop what appears to be an absolute fucking heat rock. I'm sad to say I haven't heard it yet, but I will be I might wait up all night to hit it for a spin. I've been wanting to hear this record so bad. He's like, he posted the one sheet. I know who produced everything. It's like I'm like so ready to receive this record. So
how we not gotten the record? We got, I don't know. Come on, Writer Bros.
Tisk.
Help us out.
Media Industrial Complex. So anyway, I think
that will be interesting.
Having a slightly different conversation when we do our Q3 check-in, because that looks like it's going to be amazing. And several people told us that they've had a chance to listen to it and that it's amazing and that it's a major step forward for him. So
awesome.
Wish the best for him and really want to hear the record. If you can make that happen, I guess by the time you hear this, it won't matter, but DMs are open.
That's right. Yeah, definitely. Thanks for bringing that up. I was like, what do we have to look forward to? But there were other records that did come out this year that we want to talk about a little bit. Let's start with one, Nate. When I asked you to think of a record to bring to the mid-year midtro, you brought up a record that I was literally listening to at the time, which I thought was fucking hilarious. And that's Lekeili 47's Shape Up album.
It's a little bit outside of my normal purview, but
Can I give a comment on what this is? Because you brought this up quite a bit. This is very high quality scaring the bros music.
That's so funny. Part of it was just like, looking at the new releases on a day. I think it came out the same day as Kendrick and Quelle. And we had a chance to absorb the Quelle beforehand. I had listened to the Kendrick and was like, whoa, what the hell just happened? I need to call my therapist. And then, which I don't have, sadly, for everyone around me. And then I was like, I need something different. I really needed a palate cleanser. And like this was on the new release lists or Spotify recommended new release or whatever. And I was like, I've liked her before. She's that woman who only wears the mask. No one knows what she looks like. I remember liking a few things from her past stuff, but it's not like totally what I'm listening to all the time. And then I put it on and it's like, it's banging. It's minimal. It's I would imagine twerkable. It's like this could be twerkability. This could be played at a strip club. This could be played at a club. This could be played at like a car show. Like this is some banging ass like real outside music. It's been
that's a good word
of like people going outside like and not kind of, I guess, especially now with the way the numbers are again.
Mr. Morale, inside music.
Right. Right. And then so I was digging it. And then you get 1, 2, 3, 4 songs in, and she has this song called LL Cool J.
Oh, so good.
And it is absurdly good. And it has this sing-song flow, and it's kind of a throwback. And you guys know I love stuff like that. Yeah. And she flips it so it's ladies love cool jewelry, which again, do I care about people's jewelry? Not especially. Just a great song in the way that that to me, that's the high point of a very good record. And it's a little top heavy. The stuff that I tend to like is a little bit earlier in the record, but I'm just loving this. And I want to like kind of call myself out and be like, I'm kind of loving it because when I first heard it, I wanted to listen to something around which there was not this fraught discourse. And it was like Quelle, people were having the Quelle versus Kendrick thing that day. Kendrick, you just can't escape discourse. It's basically the record is discourse, more so than music. Quelle we had just talked to, and I it was nice to listen to something outside of our purview that like just hit on a more how do you say elemental level. It was just beats, rhymes. It's fun. It's loud. Like I'm like bumping the fucking RAV4 when I go pick my wife up from work. She's like, dude, turn it down. You're like embarrassing us. Like my wife works at the library, so if you're playing any music that's audible outside the windows, everyone's looking at you. And I'm like
waking them up out here.
Yeah, kind of. And so it's just I really recommend that people who are in our little world where everything's kind of snooty, do yourself a favor and go listen to this. It's like it's fun.
Yeah, and it bangs, but not at the sacrifice of her spitting bars. What I love about Lekeili is she is committed to the song. So a lot of times what's happening right now is artists and female artists get put into this box a lot, is it's about your life. It's about these details. It's about embracing the celebrity and then the music being kind of like a vehicle with which to talk about that. What I love about Lekeili is she is, to me, extending the kind of Missy Elliott tradition of like, let's make a banging ass hit song. You don't know nothing about me. It's not about how I look. It's basically me spitting bars. And I think she produces a lot of her own stuff. So it has that feeling of like, this is her idea, and you get to kind of see her flesh these things out. I think that this is, it may make top 10 for me this year. We'll see.
Me too. Dude, I'm with you. The only fun record I think I had on my top 10 list last year was the Zach Fox, and it was like 25 out of 25. This is a much better record than that. It's hitting some of the same
that's a good corollary
that I want from it. You know what I mean?
That is a really good corollary. I do want to draw folks' attention to, we have talked about the bangers and such, but I do want to draw folks' attention to, there is a song called, I believe it's called Carrie Ann, which is like a relationship kind of heartbreaky song in this, it kind of in the spirit of We Cry Together. I was kind of holding those things. She does an amazing job of talking about a piece of shit baby daddy in a way that is emotionally engaging. So yeah, definitely Lekeili 47, Shape Up, super cool album. Just shake off some of your toxicity and pop that bad boy in. No, Scaring the Bros music is a real thing, because I'm that guy that was like, I was an early Lizzo person. I love Cardi B. And there's certain cats that come through and I'm bumping that and they're like, nah, bruh.
Yeah.
You gotta turn that shit off.
You're like, no city girls, dude. We're in public. Come on.
Yeah, exactly. I can't play City Girls. All right, what is your other
my other thing that I wanted to talk about, and these are folks that we had a chance to talk to, but I don't know that we've talked a ton about, is the Defcee and Boathouse record, For All Debts, Public and Private. Just a really good record. I feel like most people in our world have probably had a chance to reckon with this, but if you haven't, if you're one of the people who listens to the show just for music recommendations, I am currently recommending that you go to your streaming service of choice or Bandcamp and drop some loot. There's a baby formula shortage for Defcee and Boathouses, For All Debts, Public and Private, and it is a deeply lyrical rap record with kind of like modern boom bappy beats that just checks a lot of boxes. The song Ragnarok with Kip Stone is really excellent. Bubble Coat is my favorite track on there. There are a multiple dunk contest, especially given, I think it was mostly off mic, but we were just kind of dissecting the NBA Finals. Go Warriors. There's a couple times a year where there's really good basketball themed rap music, often from your own Trude. Shrapnel's EP comes to mind. This is continuing that tradition. Just a lot of good basketball metaphors, some sitting around and naming some guys' vibes on this. And, we had a chance to meet Boathouse for the first time. He's really solid producer, really cool guy. Defcee is a friend of the program, someone we've gotten to know a little bit, someone who is just a monster writer. The thing so that good. I'm always going to recommend you a record that I think is well written. That's just my deal. And this record is extremely well written. And Defcee has had a couple of guest appearances on other people's records around this same time where you're just like, man, did he just say that? Like, it's like, I'm not really the rewind guy, but sometimes I literally will rewind and be like, I want to make sure I understood that what he was saying was there. Like, I can't believe he phrased that. And I'm not using the term clever as a pejorative. Like, we've talked about that a lot on the show. Cleverness for cleverness' sake is often just not
cheesy.
Cool. But Defcee is doing things in the service of the song, in the service of like a bar writing tradition. Like, he understands where he fits into the landscape of urban poetry, and like he's killing it right now.
Oh, he's so killing it, and I feel like his trajectory is just incredible. It was great to see this record get some of the more mainstreamy publications were talking about it.
Yeah, they got on the Complex list. That's super cool, man. Like,
exactly, for making the type of music that they're making, right? Yeah. And the song Rossi featuring Armand Hammer, criminally under-listened to on Spotify right now. Shout out to the 4,000 people that have done that, but more people need to, because it's an amazing song. And to kind of tie it back together, Woods is telling amazing stories on it, but Lucid is great. But Defcee also holds his own. And to me, that's like a mark of an artist who is kind of like, to continue with the NBA vibes of like, you remember when Jordan Poole was just like, okay, all right, yeah, like I guess we don't get high draft picks, so I guess. But then there's a moment when he arrived, and you're like, oh, you were on the stage with the best players in the world that you're playing. And I kind of feel that way with Defcee, is he's getting to that spot where you can't really hold up too many people and say that they are actually better writers. And also like the spitting of the bars too.
The spitting matters. I don't want anyone to get me wrong or to get us wrong. Like, we understand, like, it's well written and poorly spit. We're not,
we're not fucking with it.
But really, what does stand out is the writing. And I've had some, real life or offline conversations with these guys, and I always wonder, do they do other kinds of writing? And actually, one of the things that I think is really interesting is most of them don't.
Defcee can give you an essay. I'm 100% certain that he can line you up a real nice essay. He does he's got social commentary in the hip, which I like. So it's not just like flipping word salad shit. Like he'll just give you just a little bit, not too much, not pedantic. And so I really fuck with it. He's got the right amount of bravado, which I like too. Sometimes now the shit is so artsy. It's like, can you just talk shit about yourself for a little bit?
Right.
Can you give us just a little bit of that? So Defcee kind of balances all those. So shout out to Defcee, Boathouse, both cool cats, and I implore y'all to go cop that album. Nate, I am adult enough to admit when I'm kind of wrong.
Ooh.
If I was really wrong, I wouldn't bring it up. But no. If I was dead wrong, I wait for you to bring it.
I cannot wait to hear what you have to say next. I'm so curious.
So we on this program, no, not on this program. We on our Patreon did kind of a longish form review of Pusha T's It's Almost Dry. I was somewhat underwhelmed at the time of its release. I was definitely kind of like, oh, what can Pusha T do for me now? And I think I brought that fussy attitude into the record. But then we went to LA. I'm just driving around LA. And I'm like, you know what? There's a place for a high-end, well-produced drug dealer record. We have a lot of boom bappy drug dealer records.
I have decided.
There's a place for that. Well, here's the thing. I'm not going to listen to a trap record that is like too sing-songy, right? Too electro-croony. It's just not my thing. It's not going to catch my attention. Yeah. There are a bunch of drug dealer albums that are nouveau boom bap, for lack of a better term. A lot. Too many, if you ask me.
I wish this was a video podcast for those last 10 seconds. You could see how far back he had his eyes rolled while he said that.
A lot. Very many bricks are being flipped to skull snaps. But what this It's Almost Dry record, it grew on me, obviously, because that's why I'm talking about it. And Pusha T's approach with a lot of these beats was very straightforward. Like he's not doing too much razzle dazzle, which gives it a replayability that I didn't think it would have. You know what I mean? Yeah. So I assailed him for maybe not as being as clever as my favorite trap guys. But because of the level of the production and because he approached it from almost a surgical, like all the flows are very mapped out. Like there's no curveballs necessarily. And if you do that well, I really like that, especially against a Pharrell production, which is so much negative space. If you find the right pattern within his beat, you're going to win. And so, yes, I am revising.
He's made a pretty solid career out of that. Like it's interesting to look at the Spotify numbers for something like that as opposed to something like the other things we've been listening to, and it's kind of like we're playing different sports. You know what I mean?
Oh, totally. But Pusha T's in an interesting place where he is not on the vanguard of his particular subgenre anymore. But he made, I think, a pretty damn good elder statesman dope dealer record, which I appreciated more now than when I first heard it.
Right on. That's cool. I haven't listened to it enough to change my opinion. So patrons, you've heard my takes. For the rest of you guys, our future patrons, see what I did there? I thought it was okay. I thought it was pretty good. I thought it was better than most mainstream records, and a couple of the things about the way they sampled things bothered me, but I can get over that. Like those are just
the Donny Hathaway sample is a crime against humanity, and it still is. I'm not claiming that. Somebody already came for me on Twitter like, are you revising your No, that was
we don't
bad.
need to speed up Donny Hathaway in 2022. Like just let it be what it is.
Yeah.
So anyway, I don't have a ton to say about this record except for what has been said in many other places, which it's a good record. It's probably not going to make my lists, but it's certainly listenable. It's better than most people's music. It's cool he brought the brother back out.
Yeah,
it's very much a flex to get half your record produced by Pharrell and half produced by Kanye, though, as we talked about, it's less of a flex
than it used to be.
thing, because that's kind of a turn off for some people. But me being one of them.
By people, meaning you.
Yeah. It's a good record. I have not felt the need to throw it back on, so I just don't have a ton of fresh takes for us here.
Okay, so Nate's gonna do some coke. He's gonna come back,
allegedly.
Yeah, allegedly, and have some takes on this. The other record that I wanted to talk about is another one where I'm revising my original take.
That's sick, bro.
And it's sick. It is the album "Sick" by Earl Sweatshirt. I think upon initially hearing it, this was one of the first like cool records to come out this year. I believe it came out in like February. I was very much just excited to hear Earl. Like Earl, alive, awake, alert Earl. He seemed like, he's getting his life in order. He's coming out with a little bit more fire. And so I think I liked it when it came out, and I'm realizing that some of that shit is kind of tedious. Like on a replay, I'm just
You're downgrading.
I'm just a little bit, and
Wow.
and I'll tell you why. I think that Earl Sweatshirt is amongst the most talented lyricists, I know that's a loaded term, out there, of guys that just flip the words, who are rapping. I think he is absolutely one of the best. He does a good job of kind of like giving you enough to make you want more, but never completely satisfying you. And I feel like that's what this record is. It's like he gives you kind of a taste and a flavor of how good this could be. And then he kind of takes his foot off the gas. And I don't quite understand it, because as a father of a 18-year-old, they're not fucking with Earl like that. So part of me is like, some of that shit you're doing is not, who is that for? Some of these records, I'm like, who is this for right now, man? Like, just get in here and do your chop. Not that Earl needs to listen to me. He's on tour in Barcelona, and his tweets about it are fucking amazing. I love him as a guy. I think with his connections and his talent and his skill, we could have gotten a more engaging record. And I feel like this one just kind of keeps slipping down in terms of the year. And I think by the end of the year, we'll be like, oh, we got an Earl record. That was okay. Right.
That's interesting. I stand that this is a solid record. I've listened to it multiple, not many, but quite a few times at this point. I like it. I think the song with Arm & Hammer is amazing. I think the narrative of it's like Earl making a clear record. Like Earl has left Slum Village and gone for his walkabout back into the world, was a little overdone, and I think that he didn't want that to be the narrative. But he only did a few interviews. I think I listened to or read them all. It's like, it's just, if you're not going to explain it, we're going to come up with narratives. Like, just like,
that's how it works.
You don't have to talk to us, but you have to talk to somebody.
Or not.
Or not. And that's what he's done the last couple of records, and that's totally fine. And if it's just what's in the music, then I think this is extremely good rap music, and I think it's highly recommendable. And where it falls on my year-end list, like it would still be on my half-year list. I don't know if it will make it on the top of your list because there's a lot of heat coming out, but it's certainly a very good record. And I've been invested in his story for a really long time, and this is the more listenable record, right? Like,
the most accessible Earl in a while.
Yeah, since Doris, probably.
Since Doris,
and even that, I was like listening to stuff when we were playing LA. I was like pulling a lot of LA records to listen to, and I'm like, damn, this is so dark, dude. I love this record, but man, is it dark? And then it's like I don't like shit. It's just, I'm like, dude, even I'm not this depressed anymore. Like, it's just interesting to hear people grow, to hear people change. I know he had a kid, and you have to like apply a lot of meta narrative to like it or not like it. If you just take it at its face value of like, do you like this beat? Do you like this rhyme? Do you think that was a well-constructed song? I think they're very well-constructed songs.
I think that's what I ended up I did the first thing you said in terms of like, I absorbed the record as a part of the Earl narrative, and he leaves so much to mystery, and I think it creates a sense of anticipation behind it. And then I was like getting down to brass tacks, and I'm like, I like 4.5 of these songs. Like I really like them.
It's actually funny because I think you told me a couple of years ago, and maybe before the date you set out at the top of the segment, that like if you liked 3 or 4 songs, it was a good record.
It was a good record.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's not a bad record. It's just I think the bar for an artist of his caliber could be a little bit higher. That's all. He can give us a better record.
Well,
that's all.
I think it's interesting to put it that way. Like if you start talking about talent to output ratio, you're gonna find that most rappers will not meet the level you've chosen as a fan for how much you want them to put out. Like, you know what I mean?
I don't know. I don't think I'm super harsh in that regard. I just go, again, NBA season. If you could put up 20 points and you give me 12, I go, right. I feel cheated. You know what I mean?
I think we're saying the same thing in different ways. Yeah. It's just like output doesn't mean number of songs.
No. But quality.
It's like what is the quality of the songs? And like, we don't have to get into a whole big thing about this, but that's always been my thing with Mos Def. It's like he should have been Wilt Chamberlain, and he was Jason Richardson. Yeah, and that's fine.
That's interesting.
They're both good basketball players, but when you watch that video of him freestyling in Washington Square Park, and you hear first couple singles, you're like, oh, the genre is in good hands.
Yeah, and then he's like, that's boring.
Wins one dunk contest and goes away. It's like, oh, interesting.
Yeah. Oh, that's really
never
good.
The best player on a playoff team. You know what I mean? It's just like
that is a really good analogy.
That's a tough one for me as of someone who was very invested again in the narrative. We're not really talking about music. We're talking about these fictions that we construct as people who care about rap.
Because who's to say?
We decide on people's behalf that they have nothing to do with. Like, this has nothing to do with Earl or Yasin as people at all. Yeah. It's just part of the culture.
It's how we consume their work. Yeah, it's how we consume their work and project about it. Obviously, Sick It would be an amazing record for 97% of rappers.
And that's kind of my point. It's it's much, much better music than most people make, and it fits so neatly into the things we like. Like I was having trouble coming up with a phrase for it. So when I did a thing on Twitter, I think on Saturday, I was like, if it's arty, left field, or deeply lyrical, I'm like, is that our thing?
To an extent, I think my gate for lyricism may not be as high as y'all's. I can. If you do the vibes thing right, I could have a little bit, but
I think make it arty. Is that not the right term? We should talk about this actually.
Okay, me and Sammy Semantics will sidebar and figure out. But I thought that was a great qualifier to your post.
It's just every time you ask people what you should listen to, they send you their own music. And no offense, other people, most of it is terrible, and I'm not going to listen to it. And it's like, it might not be terrible, but if it's presented that way, like actually, I don't know if this person listens to the show or not. And if you do, you feel free to DM me. We can continue this conversation. But I asked for a music recommendation, and there's like, here's a 7-minute hookless rap song. And I was like, I thought you wanted me to listen to it. Like that is the biggest turnoff description of a song
we don't need no hook.
Ever heard. I'm like, if this is not Nature of the Threat, I do not want to listen to this song now. Like, who the fuck wants to listen to that? Like,
I've got some acapellas on deck. I need you to fuck with.
Totally. I was just like, dude, I always go back to this thing, and I know it's very politically incorrect to even say now, but I watched The Cosby Show when I was a kid, and it's one of the episodes where Theo is in trouble, and Bill Cosby is doing the lesson at the end of the show over the hoagies and the chocolate milk and whatever, and he's like, if you bring it to me on a trash can lid, I can't like the steak. You know what I mean? And I use this a lot in my professional life. I'm like, we're going to City Hall. We have a meeting. Like, I need you to wear a collared shirt. I need you to kind of participate, but don't talk too much. Like, we need to put this on a platter, not a trash can lid. Like, we're asking for something weird here. So ask right. Use these terms.
Come correct if you want us to actually listen to your music, and also demonstrate some baseline understanding of what the show is. I think that's why your tweet encapsulated that
kind
of
trying to get people to understand what it is. Because if you just say underground, people send you all this like snow goons and like
it's very broad definition.
My boy's record, it's produced by this guy in Norway, and there's nothing wrong with that. There's probably some really good music in that world. That's not what this show is about per se.
We don't have the antennae to process and dissect those type of shit. So send us good music. Send us music that is in our
we will actually read your email or your DM if you send us music. I won't always listen to everything. We just cannot get to everything, but I am open to suggestions. But how you frame it's really important.
It's all about the
honestly,
approach.
If it comes from a trusted source, it's like so much better. But I know how does one become a trusted source? That's a whole different conversation.
Yeah. Nate, you're turning into
we do my
rapidly.
favorite part of the wrap-up show thing where we say the records that are not the records of the year, but just things I'm listening to now.
Absolutely.
We've all been kind of curious about and impressed by Roz Fresco lately.
Hey.
He's got a couple good records this year. I think we need to kind of sit down and sort out like where we stand on him. But I listened to Boulangerie over the weekend and really, really liked it. Maybe this is a discussion for another time, but I did not enjoy the guest appearances. I just liked him. And
yeah. No, that's fair. Like, Lord,
but like I was like, this is about bagels and rap. Like I'm fucking fully in on this. Like
that's Nate's core demo right there. Hit you in the soft spot. No, love Roz Fresco. He seems to be releasing stuff at this amazing clip. And for those who haven't heard him, I think of him as Raekwon's son. Like if Raekwon had a 20-something son who just had been like nursed on the milk of Wu-Tang, because he's a 5% guy. All of that is kind of wound up in it, but the beatscapes and his approach to the rhyming, he even says it like on one of the joints, not on this record, but that Cuban Links is his Bible. He definitely does it, but in a cool, respectful way. That I find enjoyable, and also he's doing that thing where he's just releasing like
tons
project after
he's on
project.
A run right now. Yeah. He had the Nicholas Craven. I think this is Nicholas Craven too, the Boulangerie, because he's from Montreal, and that's why it makes sense. It's like about this famous bagel shop called Saint Viateur that I really want to go to someday. Another thing I really enjoyed this weekend is a re-release, but I don't think most people knew it was a re-release. Like it can be accepted as a new release. It's called Natural Magic Music by Masai Bay.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Uncommon NASA has taken on the project to kind of get Masai Bay's music back out in the world, and I've been digging it. And this album has a couple of moments that like stopped me in my tracks. Like on Saturday, I was just driving around and I was like, "Whoa!" And his vocal style is unique. Like it's not for everyone. Like I think there's a reason he's an underground rapper, but he says some shit that's wild on this, and it's really, really cool. Super digging it. I'm curious, Damone, did you peep the newest Droog record, the Yod Stewart?
I did. I liked a couple songs on there. I think
did too, man. Every time I'm like, I'm done with this guy. It's too many records, and then I'm like, oh, this is actually really good.
He'll give you a couple. And I think with Droog nowadays, for me, it's all about the production that he's up against. And I feel like on Yod Stewart, it's the right type of production that gives him a chance. And he's kind of, he's telling more stories. I mean, Droog is really good. I mean, he'll never hear this because he doesn't appreciate critics. But Droog is really good. He's put out a lot of material, which is an invitation to sleep on him a little bit. But I like this better than the Wall Street record, or I think there was another one somehow sandwiched in there that I'm forgetting.
He has this other one. I actually still have it downloaded in my phone. It's hold on, I'm about to get to it. It's Yod Wave.
Yes, Yod Wave.
Which I really liked a couple of those too. And then like obviously the ones that have a lot of Fahim, you're just gonna be like, the second verse it's gonna be Fahim. It's gonna be some high pitched stuff about money. It's just it's fine, but it has the mock verse, so it's like, is that better?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
A couple other things. This is a new release. Yeah, the Here, There, and Everywhere by Lord Jamonte Ogbon, I thought was a very interesting record. Like he's such an interesting rapper. Like I'll go back in his catalog and I'm like, oh, he just rhymed over, beep. I don't want to give it away, but very prominent, well-known soul song just rhymed over it all the way through, almost in a Ghostface like way. And I'm like, who's doing that?
Yeah.
So
I remember you hit me
such
to
a
him.
good rapper. I'm just like, damn, dude, I want to know more. I want more.
Yeah, he's got 2 records out this year, no?
Yeah, a ton of records, dude.
Yeah,
so many records, and I don't know which one's the new one ever. It's just I'm actually kind of back to where we were at the quarter point here in my downloads. But yeah, those are some other things I've been listening to and been digging, and some of it's hard to keep track of when stuff is not on Spotify because that's just kind of how I organize.
I know.
I'm sure there's some Bandcamp stuff we've been forgetting.
And maybe we need to do a whole ass segment where we dedicate the time, because I'm the same way. I'm being a lazy listener in the sense that, like, oh, if I gotta go to Bandcamp, but there's dope shit that's coming out on Bandcamp, and we should support artists. In my dishonorable mentions, I wanted to bring up Man Plays Horn by Cities of Eve. The bonus edition, it's like fucking 35 weird ass wavy rap tracks that the texture and tone of them are just insane. So as I'm doing the Dims Gems playlist series, I'm just really looking for ways to sneak these in. That's all that playlist series is about.
I'm like super glad that you like that. I thought I thought you didn't like it at first. And
it's a lot.
It grew on you.
Yeah, it definitely grew on me. I'm not going to say that substances played a role, but it has. There's a time and a place for a rap that is like on the fringe. It's hard to. I mean, I guess I should know how to explain it. I'm a podcaster, but it's rap that's on the fringe, but somehow still feels like rap.
Yeah.
Sometimes rap gets so far out that you're like, "Am I listening to a rap song right now, or what is this?"
And I like that, and I think that's pushing the edges of that is really interesting. My wife and I watch a lot of Project Runway, and actually to kind of like to fill the spaces in between our other shows, we've been watching old seasons and just kind of like burning through them, just like we don't know what to watch, let's just put that on while we're both on our phones or whatever. And so I like the terminology that is used in the judging of Project Runway is like on my mind, and like they really like it when Look will come down the runway and they can tell without looking at their notes who designed it.
Yep.
Like that when the designers have a specific point of view, and like if there was some kind of rap Project Runway, Cities of Eve would be a very distinguished designer, because it's like you would know immediately that it was his work, and like it doesn't sound like anybody else's work, and it's not for everybody. It's not you know, we're back in the seasons where it was Michael Kors was one of the judges, and he's so bitchy and so funny and comes up with these like really absurd things. She's like, she's wearing a diaper to a picnic, like, you know, like these like funny ass cutting disses essentially. But it's like he's a designer that designs for everyone. Like your mom has a Michael Kors, and like
totally.
Your girlfriend in junior high had a bag. You know what I mean? It's like it's for normal people. And then you have people who are more avant-garde and people who are more like couture. And it's like
that's a great word. Is couture
rap that is labored over in a really great way. That is not for everyone, but the people that it's for, he's gonna find like a devoted.
Oh, if you like it, you're gonna like it. I think if you're really into pink seafood, I think you will definitely dig Cities of Eve. Also, who am I forgetting? Who's his rap partner? Luca. Yes.
This is just a way for us to talk more about Luca, which like Luca appears to be making videos, which means he has something on deck.
Nice.
Yeah, we still interact a little bit on social media, and we exchanged a couple emails after he was on the show. That was one of our favorite interviews of.
Absolutely.
I think we did it last year, but it came out very early this year. Everyone should go listen to that. Luca's the future.
Absolutely.
Their work together is really interesting to us. I wanted to ask you where you fell on the Fly Anakin Frank record now that you've had some time to think about it.
I like it. I kind of it sits somewhere in the area of kind of how I talked about Sick, in terms of like, these are good rap songs. Yeah. These rap songs are good. There's no bad joints on there. I really like the Fly Anakin Pink Seafood record, because I feel like my only quibble with Fly Anakin is that his voice is very cutting.
Yes.
And so I find myself, I don't know that I want to sit down with like 12 tracks in that. Like
I hear that.
Yeah. But his bars are sharp. The Mad Lib produced joint he had, I throw in the Dims Gems because it's really cool. And if like you like things that come of the lineage of like an MF Doom, things in that kind of nature, you will love that record. If you're into spitters spitting their spit, that'll be a record for you.
I thought it was interesting that in this record he brought more of his life into it, because like the previous kind of like more like Mutant Academy stuff, it was more like just like spitting for spitting's sake, and like I got into a mode where I was really digging that from him. Like there's a couple things like that's still that song Carl Kanai on that E1E Volume 4 thing. I'm like, ugh, like junior high me or like high school me would have flipped out and like devoted my life to like following this person on tour. You know what I mean? It's just like that is good rapping. Like that song just like I'm just like it's such a good underground rap song. Like it's just the beat, the flow, the lyrics, it's just so concise, it's just so great. And on this it's like he's like, I'm a person. You know what I mean? It's
I have
like,
a life.
I'm not just Fly Anakin, I'm Frank, and like I have a suit, and I'm his partner is the rapper Baby Mother.
Yeah.
And I wanted to make sure I had that right. And like he's like touring Europe and he got signed and like a bunch of stuff happened to him. And I think he's like kind of planting a flag as like this is an album-y album after many, many projects. And weirdly, even though that's what I say, all I want from people is these labored over projects that they actually work really hard on and curate. I'm kind of finding myself liking the other stuff better. And it's not a knock on the quality of it. I think he's amazing and I would actually really like to talk to him someday. And he is a very, very excellent rapper, and it's a very, very good record. And if you don't listen to much of, like, if most of what we said is flying over your head here, go try that one, because he's like, I think this is a fairly accessible record, and maybe my barometer on accessibility is all messed up, but because it's a little bit more personal, I think if you can dig the vocal tone, which is very unique, you can really get lost in this record, and there's a lot going on and a lot to speak for it. But is it my album of the year kind of thing? No, but is it a very good record? Yeah. It's very
and it's a good record. It was an early in the year record, so I always feel like you get to sit with those for a little bit longer. I'll give one more on the accessible tip, and this is a record that you recommended me, which is Start to Finish, Paul Wall and Terminology. Really good record. Paul Wall, I would venture, never had a bad feature. Like
he's so entertaining, dude.
Yeah, you know what you're gonna get, and he delivers it, and it's funny and interesting. I oftentimes think, like, does Bubba Sparks sit at the house and be like, "Man, that's supposed to be me. That was supposed to be me." Like, I had Timbo, but yeah, Paul Wall and Terminology come together on this record to create a vibe and a sound that's very interesting to hear somebody with such a thick Southern drawl essentially spit on beats that, you know, would not be out of place for a lot of like East Coast underground cats, right? So it's this really kind of straight ahead rap record. Paul Wall's doing his thing, but he's barring out enough to keep it interesting, right? Like,
oh my God, I kind of thought I had Paul Wall
figured out.
I knew who Paul Wall was. Like this surprised the hell out of me. Like it just kind of came out of nowhere. I'm not someone who tracks Terminology's new releases. He's never been someone that I paid that much attention to. I like totally dig this record, and this is a record you could throw on in front of other people.
Oh yeah, exactly.
This is not scaring the dudes or the ladies. Like this is a pretty accessible record. I'm glad you brought that aspect of it up, because that is kind of important. We almost need to put a disclaimer at the beginning of every episode, like sorry, for photosensitive viewers, there is a lot of dark rap coming your way. Anyway, I don't know if I'm supposed to tell this story or not. I'll just tell a very brief version of it. We have an interview that you guys haven't heard yet with the music writer Sasha Frere Jones, and Damone and Dave couldn't make it that day, so I got to talk to this person who I really admire their writing, and whose writing, particularly in the New Yorker when I was in my formative years, was very, very important to me. So I just kept him on the phone for as long as humanly possible. Like it was a 20-minute interview that he mercy killed after an hour and a half. And I told him, And we talked about a lot of music in that interview, and I had a really good time talking to him. And I told him I would send him some records because he hasn't kept up with rap. He focuses on a lot of other kinds of music. Rap is just one of the things he contends with and writes about. And I'm, obsessive about this corner of the thing. And he told me how much he liked Paul Wall, and he had been down to Houston, interviewed him, and they still kept lightly in touch. And that he was when he was doing a story in Houston, Paul Wall was kind of his guy on the street, like who introduced people, and who made himself very accessible to him. And I think that's part of Paul Wall's magic is like his likability. He's likable as a guest feature. He's likable as a dude. He goes through different parts of society with an ease. And so I was like, did you know, Sasha Frere Jones, that he released an album this year with Terminology where he's spitting East Coast 16s over boom bap beats? And he was like, you're kidding me, right?
Yeah,
and I was like,
that's what I said.
It's like, I was like, that'll be the first of many records. And I sent him like an album review thing with like 20 records in it. Like, here, listen to these and then get back to me and tell me what you like. And I'll send you 10 more based on what you like, Anyway. So sending that to him and thinking about it in that way made me think about the record in a slightly different way, where I was like, this is a curiosity. Now I'm like, this is just good.
Oh, it's a good record. It's objectively good record.
Super solid. And like the range that is displayed in that and the likability that is displayed in that is so cool. And so it's just nice to be surprised, I guess is what I'm saying. And like, this is emerging as a theme for me in our conversation today. We create these fictions. It's not we don't know fucking Paul Wall, dude. Like, I just know like he's like George Foreman because he's selling everybody growth. It really does not go that much further than that. I always thought he was funny, and I liked it when he showed up on like Drive Slow and other kinds of songs where he was not the main guy. But I've never listened to a Paul Wall record ever. Never thrown on a front to back Paul Wall record. This is not my world. I should.
It does make you want to go back.
I don't know what he's like. You know what I mean?
Yeah. It does make you kind of want to double back and see if you were missing something, or did he just do the thing that I wish that the veteran rappers would do? Is just find the right producer to set you up to do a record in this era. Right. And you know what I mean? It's like Terminology sits in a pretty cool place in terms of being relatively well known, but also making shit that's like boom bap-ish and kind of has a connection to that lineage. And so it all works. It fits. I think this record, you mentioned Drive Slow. I think it does in some way. I'm not going to say the songs are like Drive Slow, but it does kind of pull on some of that energy. Get the cool sample, get a nice little drum chop, and then Paul Wall does the rest. Definitely takes it home. Right on. Well, that has been our mid-year recap. We'll obviously be coming back with Quibble Jam at the end of the year, which will be here before you fucking know it. So
opening your presents with one earbud in, trying to see who released the best record of the year.
We will continue to argue about it and keep you abreast. In the meantime, as you know, you can always check us out on Twitter at Dadbod Rap Pod, on IG at Dadbod Rap Pod. But the best way to connect with us is on our Patreon, patreon.com/Dadbod Rap Pod. Got a bunch of new fly shit. I'm actually going to post a new playlist right after I get off of the Zoom. And we appreciate everybody worldwide rocking with us. We appreciate your patronage, and we're going to keep it coming. New episodes every goddamn Thursday. Dadbod Rap Pod.
audio.